Yours
Yes.
is a little different than mine did.
Yeah. Not as good.
A little bit
It's
better.
better. Oh,
Yeah.
maybe trade you. So
I cut this nose part out, this like top
uh
part, because it was like holding in there.
we're recording.
Here we go.
I'm gonna well, so if you all didn't know, I don't know who you all is. It might just be me watching these.
Hey, my mom. Hey, Mom.
And your dad watches. He reps it.
I think so.
Yeah. My parents don't.
Well, they should.
Hi, Mom.
You should.
You should. You should be watching this, Mom. Um, yeah, we're talking about Josiah Dyer leaving us. No, we're actually pumped that we're watching Josiah Dyer go off, and it's kind of like seminary. It's called Grey Friars. It's in Moscow, Idaho. Maybe that's a good place to start. What is Grey Friars, and why did you choose Grey Friars?
Yep. Grey Friars is the ministerial training program put on by, facilitated by Christ Church in Moscow, Idaho. The dean of Grey Friars has been Ben Zorns, Pastor Ben Zorns. He pastors at the downtown location, Christchurch downtown. And so basically what it is what I said, an ordination training program. And so it's seminary heavy and light. It's from what I've been told, a bit more intense than most seminary uh, uh,
Like courses or
yeah,
what do you call them? Degrees, what do they call it? Colleges? What are seminaries?
yeah, it's a seminary. It's a bit more
Than most
intense
seminaries.
than most seminary programs, is what I
Programs.
was
There you
looking
go.
for. Blah. Um, but you don't exactly get a degree coming out of it. You get a certificate of endorsement from Christchurch,
Yeah.
Moscow, and you also come out uh, prepared to go through ordination training and um, go into ordination prep training and then the ordination process.
Yeah. So then what was how did you know that you were called to do that? What happened where you were hammering on a house one day and attending a church, and then you're like, I gotta go do this.
Yeah,
This is a lot.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's been kind of it's been a constant drip over the years. Well, it really started. I come from a family who is members of my family, pastors, missionaries, educators, and so always had maybe that kind of bent. And even I remember telling my grandpa, who was a missionary, that I wanted to be a missionary too. He said no. And good for him,
No.
because at the time, and so his philosophy of ministry was a little different than mine is now. And but in his mind, he thought being a missionary is a lot of work, and you have to be very mature. And neither of those things I was. I was immature. I didn't know how to work hard. I was kind of idealistic in the way that I thought that things should go, and so he said no. Anyways, that was a long time ago, and so I've always kind of had those thoughts running in the background, and didn't really have much ambition or passion for anything. I like to work hard, but there wasn't something that I could latch onto that I found some kind of identity, like, oh, this is what I like to do. This is me. And would constantly be let's say discipling or leading people in scripture or counseling, and would be encouraged, oh, you should be a pastor, you should go into ministry. And even pastors, you know, would want to encourage me to go to seminary. But the resources that I had available in when I lived in Louisiana, and the path to that, was just it was very complicated, and in God's providence, I could not see the path to do that.
Yeah.
And even it would have required me to join the SBC, which I had reservations about, and so did not do that. And then COVID hit, and all the churches shut down, and I was asked and encouraged to start doing leading a home service at our house in Louisiana, in which I started doing, and was getting really good feedback from that. And so that kind of opened a door. I was like, hey, this is something that I like to do, and this is rewarding, and I'm finding some fulfillment in that. Fast forward to living in Idaho, and our pastor Kevin expressed an interest in having me preach at the church, and maybe on a kind of a regular basis. And I didn't feel comfortable holding that position without being formally having some sort of formal training. And I didn't really have a good mind on what exactly I wanted, but I didn't want to just be a guy from the pews getting up and saying what I thought, right? And so I had expressed that to Pastor Kevin. Already had a relationship with Pastor Longshore at Christ Church, and so Kevin encouraged me to reach out to him and see what kind of services Christ Church had to offer by way of education, to which I did. And yeah, that's how I ended up going through the process of enrolling and applying and eventually getting accepted into the Grey Friars program.
Nice. And so as it sits now, I know a few things. Well, one, I think, to go back a little bit, the qualification and the application for that is really intense.
Yeah.
If anybody were to read it, it's pretty overwhelming. I mean, I've read it. It's pretty overwhelming, right? Which is great, because I think then it's like people that are actually called are going to apply. But then even in application, not everybody's getting selected, right? And so I can say that, so you don't have to sound boastful or anything like that, because it's true, right? And so, like, for instance, the questionnaire about your character is the same questionnaire they ask their elders at Christ Church, which is multi-page, very intense, very in-depth, leaving no stone unturned in terms of not just character, but the behavior that will follow that character, which I think is incredible. I actually use that with my wife and I, just to check in with her to see like how I'm doing. And I don't ask her all the questions in one day. We do a question or two a day, but it takes us, I mean, like, we started that like a month ago, and we haven't even gone through it all, is how long it is. Right. So that gives an idea of how long it is. And so, but they selected you. Do you have any understanding or any knowledge of why that might have been the case? Or is it just, hey, I just put my best foot forward, glorify God, and then it happened?
Yeah, I don't process information maybe in that way. So like in real time,
Yeah.
I any anxieties I had were more academic than they were
Qualification or selection or
or even like relational.
okay.
The like I said, I had a decent relationship uh, with Pastor Longshore already, and had talked to him kind of several times at length about my desires, and if he thought that they were good and appropriate and qualifications, and kind of preliminary qualifications, not that in depth.
Mhm.
And then yeah, and so then going forward from there, it was just a I was just resting in providence. Like
Yeah.
I can just do what I'm gonna do,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And yeah, so my main I could say stressors were trying to communicate my doctrinal positions. Well, actually, my main stressor was having to write um, a an essay on why I thought I should be um, uh, in ministry. And what was it called? I can't remember what it's called. Like your a statement on your qualification for ministry,
Mm.
right? And so it's very difficult to try and then articulate why you think you should be in ministry without sounding
Yeah.
arrogant
Like,
or
look at me. Yeah.
boastful, right? And so I probably completely erased and rewrote that essay, 1,000 word essay, maybe 4 or 5 times, because I was like, this is trash. I can't, I couldn't bring myself to say those things.
Yeah. 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 And so now you are selected, you are going. There was it seems like, if we were to rewind 3 months, it seemed like almost an impossible lift merely for the logistical parts of this.
Right.
And most of that was like it, a lack of knowledge of what was going to happen. Right. And so it's like, you can't pull a trigger until these conditions are set, and these conditions aren't set. So here we
Right.
are. But I do know that I need to prepare to do that. So then I have to, and so, yeah, that would be a lot for anybody. But now it seems as if, you got your home rented here, you've got a home rented there, you've got obviously at least a job, if not a couple of job prospects,
Right.
and a ability to work to provide for your family, which is awesome. Are there any other um, apprehensions or difficulties from the family side? Because as a father and as a husband, like you're trying to care for your family, but you're also trying to move to what you believe God is calling you to. And so sometimes those things seemingly clash pretty hard. And then it falls into, what was providential, of course, but
Right.
yeah. So are there any of those kind of things? And some of that is like what people can be thinking about praying for you, asking, and supporting you in whatever. And not that we're trying to do an ask, but it's like just to know would be helpful, I think.
Yeah. Well, so it's actually an interesting. I guess if there's room for specific prayer, it's that I would be able to complete my classwork and maintain enough work hours to eat. Um,
Yeah.
that's gonna be the big question mark.
Yeah.
And if one suffers, it's going to be the classwork, which will just delay, my progress.
That's right.
And so that would just be unfortunate.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of in a unique position and opportunity in that I'm not having to move somewhere where there's not a really great community
Yeah.
and somewhere where there's not a really great
Yeah.
school. in a really great church
Yeah.
to try
Yeah.
and make all my stuff happen.
Yeah.
Um, we're just kind of stepping into an ideal situation as far as the family being provided for in those ways.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah. Rich body, rich community, rich,
right,
all around.
yeah, all good.
So
And
chances are you're going to be able to hopefully tick that box.
and already
Pretty,
have,
yeah.
So even just in how everything's fallen out with the rental situation, a chance encounter led to good conversations.
Chance.
That's right.
Yeah.
His name is Chance. It's not. So providential encounter led to good conversations, good counsel and advice, um, and led to me just asking for a specific situation over the Christ Church's daily email, for a rental situation. One that I was told that when this person had asked around for me to some other people who are kind of realtor type in the know people about, like maybe what I would be looking for, they just laughed and said,
That doesn't exist.
yeah, like,
So does everybody else.
yeah, welcome to everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
Of course.
just like a little place with a decent rent and a little bit of land and, kind of close to town and yada yada. If you could just give me everyone's dream,
Yeah.
like, please.
But I've been there,
but I
and it
did-
is that.
But I did it.
Yeah.
I did it, and I just asked, and it happened.
Yeah.
And so God's providence and blessing has been abundant, as it always seems to be. And so in terms of our physical needs and even emotional needs and spiritual needs, we are in abundance.
Yeah.
I do not have an abundance of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I need more time.
No. Join the club, and also this is what you've stepped into.
Yeah.
It's not like you didn't. It's not like you thought, man, if I step into this, I'm gonna have so much time on my hands.
I didn't have to get that other job.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man. Okay, so I guess then, so this is like at the very beginning. This is before it all happens. So all of this stuff can shift, change dramatically. Only God knows what's going to happen. But you're stepping in faith, which is huge. It is really awesome to see. And it's honestly, I think I think people view it as a blessing, but they don't articulate it out loud, because people tend to be apathetic, right? Like we tend to see the negative and stuff and critique it and are critical, often forgetting that God blesses and God's promises are a thing, that are real. And so I would say, by and large, I see the whole thing, and I've been that critical voice, for sure. And I've been the apprehensive voice, or I wouldn't say I've been apathetic, but apprehensive about that pursuit or whatever. And just like, hey, thinking concern for family, or concern for whatever, concern for myself even, right? Or concern for future and all of that stuff. But largely, I think right now, where it sits and where everything is, it's a huge blessing. And I think people do see that now, whether they articulate it or not. And so my hope is, in saying that, one, that you hear it, but two, that maybe you hear it from other people as well, gives them permission to say, like, wow, what a blessing. That's amazing. May God continue to bless that adventure. you know, that you and your family are stepping into.
Yeah, really only Moscow people say that.
Ah, I just said it.
Maybe India.
I'm not Moscow.
Yeah, Moscow is here, at least to me.
Yeah. Well, but that's what I think. I think before there was a lot of people worrying for you that they don't need to worry. Like you were already worrying enough. You didn't need anybody else's worries.
Everybody come
Let's worry
with me.
together. Yeah. And really you didn't need to worry either, but we can easily say that, much harder to walk out, right?
Right.
So maybe we can all have some grace for all of us warriors as well, because of that. But so now, what's your thought in kind of how you're envisioning tackling? It's a 3-year thing, right?
Yep.
Hopefully,
Ideally.
prayerfully, ideally.
3 to 10.
Yeah. Hey, that was my undergrad, so that would be great.
That's right.
And then I'd love to talk maybe, you know, drafts of what may be to come if that does in fact happen in 3 years. But what's kind of your thought on, okay, the next 3 years, this is where my head's at. This is what I'm thinking, how this thing's gonna transpire.
Yep. Well, so there's a lot of possibility as far as how it can transpire. Beginning in the Grey Friars class and seeing what that looks like over the course of this year, there is some question as to how it could change in the future and be possibly absorbed into New St. Andrews as an MDiv program, and so that might have some implications on timeline and depending on what classes transfer over and all that. I'm not really focusing on any of that. Basically, it's just this year, head down, learn everything I can, and yeah, soak up as much of the community as I can. I'm also going to be teaching Old Testament survey 7th grade at Logos Academy, and so get just what I really want to do is beyond the academic side. I want to get my finger on the pulse of the community.
Yeah.
See what's making it tick, where it's thriving, where it has success, what is driving that, where there might be opportunities for improvement or adaptation to other types of communities and people. What would drive that? What would make that be successful? Yeah, that's my main driver, and immerse my family in that. Yeah, to where we're having just the most benefit from being part of the community that we possibly can.
Yeah.
And that's all aside of doing really well in my academic studies. Yeah, so that's my main goal, I would say.
Yeah. And I haven't known you for forever, but I think I've known you long enough to say this without any reservation. You don't typically do things with mediocrity in mind. Would that be correct?
That's right.
A true statement.
I think so.
Like excellence,
yeah,
is just the standard.
Except for my own house. My wife would disagree with that. By the trim in my house.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I'm a carpenter, so my house is allowed to be in shambles.
That's right. Also, you got to make the money and then have the time to do those things. Right. And sometimes that gets taken up by providing elsewhere. So not that that's an excuse for your lack of excellence there. Okay. So then final question, and we'll call this done for now, and hopefully we'll get another one out in a month or a quarter or something. Once a month, once a quarter, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. what's your hopes for afterwards? Because there, maybe I should paint a little bit of context. CRECs are in high demand. There is a lot of them that are planted without ordained pastors at them, and so there's a high need for someone like yourself coming out of Grey Friars to go really anywhere.
Right.
Because they're all over. They're just missing their ordained minister or pastor. But then, also I've had conversations with Coleman, and I'm Presbyterian, you're Presbyterian. They're aware of that. They're Baptistic, right? And so it's like to be able to have some sort of partnership or connection with our current body, but then also have our convictions about what would be appropriate and proper biblical liturgy and things like that up here. But what are your thoughts? Are you kind of open or zeroed in, or you're really looking to the Lord to lead in any of that? Or we can cut it off and never have this be recorded.
What did he say? Well, I'm open, and I'm looking in that I'm looking to the Lord to lead. I've got my preferences, kind of in order of importance to me. I would like to be a blessing to my current church body, the one that we're at now. That's where this all started.
Yeah.
That's what it's born out of, and I maintain that. If that is not the needed and best path, I would like to be a blessing to this community that I'm coming from. If that is not the path, then I would like to be a blessing to another community, right?
Yeah.
One that's calling for a pastor,
Yeah.
And that has a vision for kingdom building and training up the next generation and subsequent generation after that.
Yeah.
And laying the groundwork for Christendom 2.0. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the goal. The goal is to take the passions that I have for excellence in worship and for inspiring working men to live their lives to the glory of God, and to train up their children and shepherd their wives and families to that end. I want to apply that to kingdom building in this country. And so whether it's at New Song,
Or
whether it's
Mongolia.
Sandpoint, that's right. Whether
You
it's
said this country, I'm holding you to that.
it might be they've got a CREC church in Tokyo. So, no, but or whether it be, Boone, North Carolina, Covington, Louisiana, or Kristen said she's not going to Fairbanks. So sorry, Fairbanks. I can't come.
Man, Alaska's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so that's it. That's it. I'm trying to keep the as the concerned bros like to say, I want to keep the main thing, right? And the main thing is um build the kingdom.
Yeah.
Right. Train your children, lead your family, inspire and encourage those around you, and work to the glory of God.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think all of those that are sending you off from New Song would agree with the kingdom building aspect of that, and be optimistic about your pursuits, and see that as a blessing, right? Even if it hasn't been articulated, just in my conversations with some of them. And then I know that obviously Moscow is very much in that rut that they have worked for now decades,
Right.
generations, literally. and I personally would agree. I'm like, that's the most glorious part of that, is like, well, whatever is happening, the kingdom of the Lord is being built
Right.
and fought for. And that's pretty awesome. Pretty radtastic.
It's fantastic. And there's different flavors, you know, and so I know
Yeah.
you talked to Ivy,
Yeah,
and he's going somewhere besides Moscow,
maybe.
and that's you better. And that's great. And that's fine. You know, I'm going to Moscow because I like their mood, you know.
Yeah.
And some people that listen to this might not like their mood, and that's fine, you know. We got to build the kingdom. We've got to train a generation that's not going to be victims to the cultural landslide that's happening.
Yeah.
And so that's the main thing. That's what it's about.
That's right. Amen. I'll finish on that. Yes and amen.
Amen.